Yeah.
Now, this fall, if we're looking at the major Oscar contenders, I mean, there are several. I mean, there's P.T. Anderson's film, there's Lincoln, and we'll talk more about Lincoln in a little bit. But there's also Kathryn Bigelow's film, Zero Dark 30, and they released the teaser for that last week.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, let me say the title Zero Dark 30, it sounds like the name of a beer. But outside of that,
I love that. By the way, I have an ancillary joke for that. The little tagline for the beer could be, "It's Osama bin Lager."
I like that.
When
That's
you're done,
good.
I have a question
good,
about
man.
this movie.
Hang on, Jerry. I'm not done laughing.
I know, it's good. It was very funny. No, I liked it.
Go ahead, Jerry.
This movie has a lot of baggage, not in a good way either. I don't know if the public will be that interested when it comes out, but also just all the leaks, they claim that classified information was shared with the people making the movie, and that's caused a shitstorm, if you will, and
to the point where they had to push the movie back. After its release, after the they pushed it back to December so it wouldn't interfere with the election and so forth.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think Lincoln?
Well, first of all, hold that thought about Lincoln, because I'm going to ask you a question related to what you just said.
Okay.
Nobody cared about The Hurt Locker either. I mean, nobody went to go see it.
It's a great movie and everything, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It's not a reflection on the quality of the movie, but do you think that this added kind of conspiracy feel and controversy with Zero Dark 30 would actually increase interest in it, if anything?
No, I don't. I think people, how do I say this? I mean, even though it's a very important story, it's not even just so much that's a big deal in one sense, depending whose side you look at. But there's also this whole thing now. The SEAL team is now saying that Obama has exploited this, for election gains, which is BS because the other side, no one had a problem when the other side was doing this many years ago. But there's just so much baggage coming with this film in one sense. By the way, which means absolutely nothing outside the Beltway. Mm-hmm. Everything like with these movies, mind you, Fair Game, and they're good movies. Outside the Beltway, no one gives a damn.
They're kind of telling people aren't people a little burned out on just hearing about Iraq just in general and Afghanistan and
I
everything?
think it's the biggest story this week is that like once again, and Jamie, I'll shut up after this about this, but Leon Panetta just saying that neither side is talking about Afghanistan. We still have a war going on, but no one is dare talk about this on the campaign trail, and I think that says it all.
In terms of movies, they've never cared.
No, they don't.
I mean, but
he's had some good movies made about the subject
absolutely,
too.
Absolutely. But The Hurt Locker, no one viewed The Hurt Locker as a politicized movie. People are going to view, I think, where you're right about this controversy is people are going to view Zero Dark 30 as a politicized movie before it even sees the light of day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's divisive.
Yeah, I think. Knowing how Kathryn Bigelow, though, she doesn't really put a lot of politics into her movies. Her movies are pretty much visceral.
Yeah, they're adrenaline.
Visceral
adrenaline junkies.
Yeah, they are. And I bet when the movie finally comes out and people see it for what it really is, there'll be a lot. All that talk about political things will just be shut down.
Right. I agree with
that.
Is it going to be Point Break in Afghanistan? Is that what it's going to be?
But I just don't think people are that interested in the material. I think especially it's been a year, well over a year since he was killed. People just don't care. They never did. There were movies we thought about the war that would do well. Never.
Well,
they never do.
That's true.
But I still think that it'll get Oscar.
Oh yeah,
it's good.
I think that's. It would have to be. I don't see it being a bad. I don't think. Let me put it to you like this. I don't think it's going to be a poorly made film. I think if anything, she is for the most part a very reliable, very capable director. She knows how to make an entertaining film.
Let me ask about this, and then we'll talk a little bit about Lincoln since we're on the topic of Oscars. Jimmy Fallon turned down hosting the next Oscars. Or I don't know that he turned it down. I think he was turned down for it.
Oh, okay.
And so I think it's because he's an NBC talk show host, late night talk show host, and the Oscars are ABC's baby, and they don't necessarily want to promote another network as the biggest night of their ratings year. And then I think in turn, after that occurred, Lorne Michaels bowed out of producing it, so they're without producer and host now. And Lorne Michaels producing was actually like an exciting notion to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I could see, definitely.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
No,
I have no idea.
Jimmy Kimmel?
No, nobody.
No, I just threw that out there. Not as a who would you get to host it then?
Shit, I'd go with Craig Ferguson before I went with
You know why? You know why they might go for Jimmy Kimmel? Because he makes it a point to do like an after Oscar special every year, and he does these mock movies just like they play at the beginning of every Oscar ceremony with like every single star you can imagine.
Right.
Like the people of Hollywood love Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay, well that could work. I mean, that's not so far out there. Craig Ferguson is a good choice too. But I would have been curious to see Jimmy Fallon try it.
Yeah.
I have still yet to watch even one episode of that show because I've just never been enamored of Jimmy Fallon. Like I always, he always irritated me on SNL because he would be the one guy that would break, and start laughing.
He's the worst interviewer ever. Essentially, he really is.
Yeah, I mean. I just,
Oh God, I hope we don't get him on the show. He was probably going to listen to one episode he'll listen to.
I mean, he's not a very good interviewer, though. You're right. I mean,
he'll just sit there with the guest, and he's like, "Oh God, that's just amazing. That's amazing." That's his interview technique.
Yeah, it's true. Right now I'm reading. I don't know if you guys have read this book. It's really interesting. It's called The Big Show. It's by Steve Pond, and it's all about the actual Oscar shows, all the work that went into each one of them, and it starts off in the mid '90s and works its way up to I think 2005 or something like that. So it goes through the machinations of what it takes to produce each one of the shows. It's a pretty interesting book. It's kind of got like a little bit of a gossipy kind of thing to it, which is usually like not my deal. But I like that they focus all the gossip on just what was going on behind stage and so forth, and it's really funny when you read all the passages about they're waiting for the nominations, because the nominations frame what the show's going to be like, and especially they wait for the best song nominations to come out because that gives them the ideas of what's going to be a big number in the show or whatever. It's always funny, for me reading about these terrible songs that are nominated almost every year that absolutely nobody remembers, like that song from Beethoven's Second or whatever. I mean, it's stuff like that. It's like, oh man, it must be so tough for them to get excited about that stuff.
I was reading an interview, I was watching an interview with Friedkin because he's done every single outlet known to man for Killer Joe. He really has, but I think it was Movie City News, and he was talking about the one year that he produced the Oscars. Mm-hmm. And he said that year that he did that, he called Stanley Kubrick, and he said, it would be a tremendous honor if you would fly down and present Best Director. And he said that Kubrick wanted to do it, but he just couldn't bring himself to because he was so petrified of flying.
Oh. Wow.
Wouldn't that have been like one of those great Oscar moments? That would have been a great Oscar moment. Yeah.
That would have been like, imagine Stanley Kubrick and Terrence Malick do a joint appearance.
Yeah, you'd have better luck trying to get Stanley Kubrick to appear now than Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick and Michael Cimino present the best.
Even though, you know what, Malick has been photographed a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's new photographs I just saw today of him on set. Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln. They released like the official photo the other week, and he looks pretty astounding.
That's
Agreed?
some astounding makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Unbelievable.
I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I mean, I think he's obvious. Is he the front runner for Best Actor? Are we just going to go on that assumption?
Right now, from what I'm hearing people say, from people, well, I mean, nobody's seen his performance yet, but, you know, you can imagine that he's great. I mean, you kind of, it's like saying that Meryl Streep looks great in that movie. Well, yeah, she's Meryl Streep. But from what I hear, I mean, a lot of people are talking about Joaquin being the big competition for him.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I see that. It seems like he has that part in the movie.
He's got that Giovanni Ribisi role.
Yeah.
That twitchy weirdo vibe.
One thing about The Master, and I'm still keeping this to Lincoln, but one thing that I've heard about The Master is that it's a little obscure.
Mm-hmm.
That it might not be the kind of movie that's in the Oscar wheelhouse necessarily. Of course,
I mean,
they
say it's very similar in tone to There Will Be Blood. But There Will Be Blood got the Oscar love, obviously, for Daniel Day-Lewis. So could it do the same thing for Joaquin? I mean, I don't know.
Possibly could.
It could. I think it could. I think that there's something about, he has not made a bad film yet, Paul Thomas Anderson. Nothing close to what you would call a bad movie. So.
Yeah. I mean,
I like
my thing about Lincoln is, I think if Lincoln comes out and it's sort of like just good but not great, not out of this world great, that instantly kills Daniel Day-Lewis's chances of winning, because they're not going to give him a third Oscar unless it's not just a great performance, but a great movie.
Well, we can say that, but Meryl Streep won for The Iron Lady last year.
Well,
that's not a great movie.
But that's only because she had already gone down in the list as the biggest Oscar loser of all time. So they kind of wanted to balance that out a little bit,
It could be, but there are also extreme similarities too. I mean, playing a real life figure, looking amazingly like them, inhabiting them. Even though I don't know anyone personally that has met Lincoln.
Yeah.
The only difference is, that Iron Lady had that director who directed Mamma Mia or whatever. That was the only other thing she ever done.
The Little Lloyd, yeah.